Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name's JD, who's here with me.
It's Michelle, and I'm getting tested for ADHD.
Oh, are you? I'm going to be getting that evaluation soon myself.
Nice. I mean, obviously I have it, but I do not have medication,
Right.
and that's the problem.
Get something verified so the doctor can give you a happy pill to take or a calm down pill or whatever pill it is you need.
Exactly. I was telling my therapist I don't like to do drugs. Actually, following last week's show, because we were talking about drugs, I was like, I'm going to talk to you about my thoughts on drugs today. And I was like, I can't do drugs because my mind is a scary place. And she was asking me why I think that. And I was like, well, for one, it's a very busy place. I have multiple thoughts at all times. Like, I'm having this conversation with you, but right now I'm going through math equations to prepare for my test. And I'm also thinking about a movie I saw yesterday. And she's like, do you think you might have ADHD? And I was like, well, yes, I'm very hyperactive, and I have a hard time focusing. So yeah, probably. And she's like, well, that would explain the multiple lines of thoughts. And I was like, is that not just a personality quirk?
No.
Apparently most people only think one thing.
Yeah, well, they have an ability at least to focus and narrow down and block that other stuff out, or so I'm told. I'm the same way.
Sounds boring.
People be like,
boring.
Like, I hear about people who just, like, sit there and don't think about anything, and I'm just like, how?
Yeah.
Like, I have, my experience of my thoughts, and I bet yours is similar, Michelle, is I don't have my thoughts. My thoughts happen to me.
Ooh, I do like that way of putting it.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't
am not in control
thoughts.
of them.
No, my thoughts happen to me. That's
I don't
my
have
brain
thoughts.
is
My
three
thoughts
steps
have
ahead
me.
of me at all times. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway,
speaking
therapy
of
portion
thoughts,
right up front.
Yeah, we get it out the block, guys. If this is your first time tuning in, yeah, we always talk about all the really weird and wild and depressing and anxiety-inducing stuff that's going on in our lives.
So that you know you're not alone. If you're fucked up, just keep in mind, so are we. I don't know why that would be a comfort to anybody, because they're like, why would I want to have anything in common with these two?
Well,
but you know what? Fuck you.
Ultimately, I think the thing that we're pushing towards here, and I feel like this is a movement in the world entirely, really, is I think what we're slowly starting to peel away and realize is that what we thought was normal for so long is a complete farce. And everybody was just faking it the whole way. And the idea that there's this baseline normalcy and even keel way through, it's bullshit. It's utter nonsense.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right.
Some of us embrace it. Some of us deny it. Some of us are not even prepared to accept it. And that's fine. It's not your fault.
Wow.
But goddamn.
Spitting hot game truth facts over here.
Anyway, you probably
Speaking
want
of
to talk
mental
about
illness.
Yeah. Oh shit! Nice transition. Well done.
I'm good. I'm real good.
You saw it on the episode title. We're here to talk about Creep, but not just Creep. Also Creep 2, and also all 6 episodes of the just today completed The Creep tapes. That's what we're talking about today. The Creep franchise.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Michelle's very droll right now. Anyway, shout out to our buddy Bren our buddy Bren over in Ireland, who said, "Hey, are you guys ever going to talk about the Creep tapes?" And Michelle's like, "Yeah, I've been watching them. I'll probably mention it on the Michelle in review." And then I was like, "Hey, I haven't watched a single one, but I can watch them and we could maybe do an episode." And then I was like, "Hey, these movies are really short and I haven't seen the second one anyway. And I only saw the first one once." I said, "Hey, Michelle, why don't we do that thing that we said we would probably never do again and do an episode devoted to an entire franchise?" And here we are. I promise this one isn't going to be the 3-hour epic that our Saw episode was.
I make no guarantees.
Oh, shit. Well, I promise it will not be my fault if this becomes another 3-hour epic like our Saw franchise episode.
I'm just excited for another Saw episode someday because we are getting the next Saw in 2025.
Yeah, what makes you so sure we're going to do an episode about it?
I don't care if you're here with me. I will talk to these people about my thoughts on Saw 11 when it comes out.
That's fair. Look, at this
I gotta
point,
see
we probably,
Saw so I can say I saw Saw.
I honestly, at this point, when we do drop that giant 10-film bomb or whatever, what we just did the first 7, right? I don't even remember. Anyway, yeah, at this point, we probably got to do 11 when it lands.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to have thoughts.
What
my
have
Saturday,
I committed myself to?
My Saturday party is next week, and I'm excited. I have programmed the electronic assistant whose name I can't say or she will wake up. I have programmed her to do certain things, and I can't say what they are, and I've just realized that. Uh-oh. Hi, JD?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just like, you've programmed it to do certain things that you can't talk about. That's
well, I was about to elaborate, Michelle. Because Jenna, who never watches the movie, might listen to this episode before Saturday, and I just realized I can't have her know what I need to make my house into a living trap. They really have to understand how into the Sawverse they are getting. So yeah, well, I'll tell you next week.
Also, wait, there was a thought I had there, and then it just completely disappeared. Okay, it must not have been all that important. Creep.
Nope. Creep.
That's what we're talking about here. Creep. We're not really going to go through a descripty script from any of the usual suspect sources because A, we're talking about 2 feature films and 6 episodes of a series, and B, really, they all have sort of a very unifying summary, which is something to the effect of a dude pays people to come out and videotape his life, and stuff happens. Creep.
Yeah.
Creep 2. The Creep Tapes.
Creep 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yes. Creep 2, yes. Electric Boogaloo. Let's start here, Michelle. You had already been watching the series when Bren asked us if we were going to be talking about it. Is that just something because it was there and it was part of your, here's all this stuff that I need to consume? Or are you a fan of the franchise coming into the Creep Tapes?
Do you want me to just get into my rating of each of them?
Yeah,
right
I suppose we might as well just do our spoiler-free ratings. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, cool. So first off, I did write down the note. He's a creep. He's a weirdo, and I'm sure they have heard that so.
What the hell is he doing here? He doesn't belong.
He doesn't belong here. Okay.
I'm sorry, but it's one of the most ridiculous. I just got to get the thought out of my head. Well, Michelle, for the longest time in my head, whenever I sing that Radiohead song "Creep," I just invert the pronouns. So it's instead of I'm when I was here before, you couldn't look me in the eye. I'm just like an angel. My skin makes you cry. It's like you're the lady. And it's like, you wish you were special. I'm so fucking special, but you're a creep. You're a weirdo. What the hell are you doing here? Sing the song like that every time from now on. You will realize that's a whole different story from the other side of the coin. Anyway, okay, I exercised the demon thought. Please continue.
Oh, do I go off on my own creep tangent?
Yes.
No. I was just going to say Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, when they played Creep, it made me cry a lot. And I've been waiting for a way to reclaim that song in a way that doesn't make me cry. And so I'm going to be using that now. And thank you. I can finally enjoy that song again because, God, I can't handle anything bad happening to animals. And that is all that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is.
I just about made a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 reference, but I realized the reference I was about to make might have completely derailed your ability to continue this podcast, so I'm not going to do it.
That's only for Michelle in review that we go on completely or at the end of the episode. Write it down because that is when we get into math discussions and talks about death once they've probably tuned out anyway.
Sure.
Okay. My ratings. Unless you need to pause. I know I keep hearing your dog and you look kind of frantic.
No, for right now, It's okay. I think he's just being
a dog.
He's mad. Yeah, he's mad that I'm in here recording and not paying attention to him. and he's getting a fussy with mom. But no, it's fine. Everybody knows Riley's here. Honestly, with the podcast,
he's in every episode now.
He's in here. Yeah, I mean, it's just like here at the building where we live. He's everybody's friend. Everybody knows who he is. Right now, he seems okay.
I'm going to post pictures of our pets online tomorrow. I realize that we talk about our animals all the time, but we don't always post pictures of them. So I want to show off my babies. So if you are on the Facebooks or the Instagrams, stay tuned. You're going to see pictures of the animals that fuck up our recordings a lot.
I will. I'll send you some selections of Riley so you can add them into the post.
I was going to ask you to.
So anyway, as it turns out, we did have to stop for the goddamn dog.
I knew it.
This animal he's lucky, he's fuzzy and warm and kind of cute because he's also an incredible asshole.
Yeah.
Surprise, Michelle. He didn't even have to go potty. We went outside. Yeah, we went outside. And he fucking barked a bunch into the darkness, and then we came inside. That's what the big
Riley
fuss
and Ellie
was
could
about.
be brother sister because this is exactly Ellie's behavior.
If you want your dog girl to have a brother, sometimes I think maybe you could have him.
Oh no! I have
dog.
so many babies here. They are too many.
Anyway,
I barely sleep.
Creep. That's what we were trying to talk
now we got
about
a
before.
Therapy portion and a dog portion of the show officially,
Which in this case are the same thing for me.
Yeah, fair.
This dog is gonna drive me to drink again. Jesus.
Oh, I am gonna have wine after this. That sounds like a great idea. Okay, my ratings and my thoughts.
Finally, we were getting your spoiler-free thoughts and ratings. Are we going to rate each one of these individually, or are we doing the 2 movies and then the series as a whole, or how do you
We have to do it individually because I have different ratings for them.
For all 8 portions?
Well, no, I don't mean individual episodes, but I do have to break up the movies and the tapes. So
That's
3 separate ratings for me.
3. That's perfect.
Yeah. I don't care episode per episode, though I do have some thoughts on a few of them. Okay, so Creep 2014, the first one. It's found footage. I like found footage. I really enjoy this character that Mark Duplass plays. I don't know if he actually has a name because he changes it every time. So I'm just going to call him Joseph because that's who he is in the first one. So Joseph doesn't seem to fit him, but whatever. The Creep. So this creepy guy, I like the concept. I think that all of his monologues are really good. I did an interesting thing where I watched 4 episodes of the Creep tapes and then rewatched Creep 1 and Creep 2. And I feel like doing it in that order actually gave me a lot more insight into the first movie than I previously thought. The first Creep movie is fine. It's not my favorite. I think like if it was another person playing that character, I might not even like it at all. I just really, really like him. So for the first one, I'm actually just going with a 3 for it. But Creep 2 gets to join that elusive group that so few do, including other movies like Shrek 2, where the sequel was better than the original. I love Creep 2. I love Sarah. Sarah is everything I wish I could be, and she is everything I am not. Like just this badass woman who's not afraid of anything. And I wish I wasn't afraid of anything, but instead I'm afraid of everything. Creep 2 is phenomenal. So now we have 2 characters that I care about a lot. And I think that's what amped it up. In the first movie, the guy behind the camera isn't really like, can't even remember dialogue he says. Obviously he says some things, but he's just reacting to what's going on. Whereas Sarah is a character by herself. I've also, if I wrote fan fiction, I would absolutely write some fan fiction about Creep 2. And then last, the Creep tapes. I like the first 4 episodes, and I like the additional backstory and lore that we get from the last 2. But Episode 5, I've got some questions. Episode 6, I also have some questions. But overall, it is a very good series that I am looking forward to watching if they make a second season. Hopefully they do. They're also nice and bite-sized, and each one is its own little succinct thing, and I like that a lot. I'm not usually much of a show person, so I'm glad that this is just like a short little thing. I say on the day that I decided to go back and rewatch all of Nip Tuck. So not normally a TV person, but
okay.
we'll talk about it, Michelle, in review. Okay, so for the series,
just briefly, I watched every episode of Nip Tuck as it happened. When the show, back when you still had to watch shows like once a week on TV. It might be the last show I ever watched from start to finish, watching every episode from TV. We'll have to talk about that.
I will give my rating really quick and then I will respond. 4 out of 5 for the series. I have short-term memory loss disability, so it makes it very difficult for me to watch week to week. I have to do a recap each week because the information is there. It doesn't come out. That's the problem with my brain. It sucks. So I have to watch a recap just to enjoy that episode. So my alternative is binging an entire season, which also sucks sometimes, depending on what type of show it is. And then if I wait in between seasons, I have to again refresh all the information. I had never seen Game of Thrones until I started dating my now husband, and he forced me to watch Game of Thrones. I was also very sick when we got to like season 2, so I was in like a massive fever dream hallucination thing. I have no idea what the fuck happened in the first 4 seasons. I know there's a lady with dragons. I like Emilia Clarke. That's basically all I remember. But then I was stuck watching it week to week, and I hated myself for it, but there's so much story going on that every 5 minutes I'd be like, who are these people again? Oh, that's the king. Okay. And this is, we met her season 1 episode 3 and that was a big deal. Okay. And now she's back. Oh, and she's dead now. Okay. Gotcha. It sucked. Anyway.
Yeah, I definitely, I've even gotten to a point where, as much as I do enjoy binging, like doing whole season binges in the streaming era, I've gotten to a point where with most things, I'm not even going to sit down and start watching it until it's done. Right? Because I want to be able to just, and where that comes from is that's how I first saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I saw it on DVD after all 7 seasons were available, so I could just sit down and watch. And from that point on, I was like, man, it sucks in this day and age because so many things get spoiled so easily, but that's my preferred way to do things now, is to just wait till the whole thing is done and then go back and tear it up. Anyway.
I will make an exception for today's subject of the creep tapes. Transition back into it.
Well done. So you gave a 3 to the first film. What was your rating on Creep 2?
5. I love
5 on Creep 2, and then a 4 on the series overall.
Correct. So 4 for all of it on average.
Right. And you said there were some episodes that you really liked, some that you really didn't.
Yep. To keep it vague in the spoiler-free section.
Gotcha. I just wanted to make sure that I was actually paying attention, and I'm did.
Surprised you were. Good job.
Wow.
I'm just saying I don't pay attention to me. I'm glad somebody is.
So, do you want my spoiler-free thoughts, Michelle?
I do want. JD? Do you want his with the spoiler-free thoughts?
So I saw the first Creep back when it was relatively new on Netflix when it first came out. I believe it was a direct-to-Netflix release. I don't remember, or I didn't remember a lot about it, except that I had this vague memory of just not really being into it very much. And here's what I can say about this. This is definitive a kind of movie that's not really for me, and I don't even mean in the found footage sense. I mean, like, I can't even really explain it until we get deeper into the spoiler section, but the way these stories play out, in most of the cases, the first, at least with the 2 films, like it takes a while to get to the stuff that I like or that I'm interested in is probably the best way to say it. I'll say this about the first film. There are parts of it that I really enjoy. I think the end of the film is absolutely preposterous, and we'll talk about why. The first film, not for me. If I was going to rate the first film, I would give it a 2. Mark Duplass is fantastic. I agree with you. Patrick Bryce, who played Aaron, is almost there just to be a foil for Mark Duplass, and that's fine. But there are things about the way they tell these stories that are not. Now, that being said, I also 100% agree with you that Creep 2 is the very best version of this franchise, and it's all because of Sarah. Her performance is incredible. We get more of a two-sided story here than we get in Creep. The camera, the person behind the camera is way more of a presence and a developing character here. And I would give Creep 2 a 4. So I'm following kind of same pattern as you, at least for the films. The series, I have a lot of confusion about. There are times where I got the genuine impression that it almost felt like are they trying to be funny here? Like, is this supposed to be horror comedy? There are some things in these individual shorts that to me are, again, just so absurd. And things that are so over that if the idea is I'm supposed to be watching something that really happened and there are moments where this goes completely over the top into almost like a pastiche or like a deliberately exaggerated clowning version of this thing. I don't know if that was just the intent or if I'm just picking that up. My overall impression of the series also gonna be a 2. Now, that being said, there are 2 episodes here that I really, really love, and I would say one of them is a 4 and the other one is a 5. We'll talk about that when we get there. But there's also one in here that is maybe like a half skull, maybe a 1. Yeah, and that's about as detailed as I can get. So for the first movie and for the series overall, 2 skulls, but Creep 2, 4 skulls.
I have a question, but we'll save it for the spoiler section.
Okay. All right.
Should we get into it?
Yeah, this is the spoiler section. If you don't want spoilers on Creep or Creep 2 or the Creep tapes, stop listening now. Come back after you see them. Are you going to do a plot recap for all 8 of these, Michelle?
Oh, yeah, I am.
Okay. This might actually be a 2.5 hour fiasco. It
absolutely will not be.
Okay, fair enough. Let's do it. Creep
1, 2014. I've decided I'm calling the creepy man Mark. It makes the most sense. That's who plays him, and Mark fits this guy.
And just quickly, for those of you who might be tuning in for the first time, what's about to happen is Michelle is going to completely extemporaneously summarize the plot of these films for us. Take it away, Michelle.
You always make it sound so good, and then sometimes I don't deliver. Let's see how it goes. Okay,
you always deliver. Don't be ridiculous.
Oh, Hell House LLC, whatever the newest one is, did not deliver. I think about that late at night of how my
Hell
plot
House
summary.
LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor?
Yes, thank you. I could not remember the whole thing.
That's one of our most popular episodes of all time, Michelle. I believe it's number 3 of all time. Maybe
my
number 2.
worst plot summary. The best plot summary is the Puppet Master. Puppet Man?
Yes.
Puppet Master. Puppet Man. And then the writer director commented on Twitter with some feedback about things that I had a problem with and why out of all of them. But that's still one of my favorite rants. Okay, anyway, Creep 2014. There's a guy, his name is Mark, as far as I'm concerned. We never actually learn his name. He is a creep. He has a hobby, a very expensive, very weird hobby where he just pays people $1,000 to come out and document his life. And he makes up stories about why they would be doing that. So in the first one, there's a guy played by Patrick Bryce, who is the writer and director of these series, co-wrote with Mark Duplass, and he goes out there and Mark's like, hey, I have a son, I'm dying, I want to record some stuff for my son. And the other guy is like, oh, okay. So then they do that, and like Mark gets naked pretty much right away, and that's an indication of how these movies go. And so then he's like pretending to bathe this not real baby, and things are just weird the whole time, and you're not sure what's reality, what's not. At the end, he's like, so long story short, I raped my wife as a wolf. And the videographer is like, okay, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. And then Mark's like, no, please don't. And the guy's like, yes, please let me go. And Mark's like, nah. And then he's like, yes, here's some drugs. And then he goes to escape, and he does not escape. He gets dead. Basically, that's what happens. So Creep 2 2017, Mark's back. And now we have a character I actually really care about, Sarah, whose name I remember, which is an indication of how much better Creep 2 is. So Sarah, she's a girl with a YouTube channel, failing YouTube channel, not much engagement from followers, and I just realized that is my life. I do want to be Sarah. I do want to be famous, even if it means meeting Mark. I would love to meet Mark. So she agrees to go videograph this dude who's weird. And I think in this one, he also says that, oh, yes, this is the one where his biography is his reality, that he's a serial killer and he wants to document it. But she does not believe that he's a serial killer. And she's also like, all my red flags are going off. I've seen his dick. Good job, by the way. And like, good for him, I mean. Anyway, I've seen it, and like, so I should probably leave because this is very much like all my red flags are going off, but fame. And so she stays, and I'm glad she did because then we got a movie about it. He has several breakdowns. It is really hard to tell what is a real breakdown, what is manipulation, what part of this is acting, what part of this is toying. We do see some real parts of who he is. He clearly cannot get a grasp on Sarah because he's trying to freak her out, and it doesn't work. At the end, he buries her alive and then goes to the camera to talk at it for a while. And Sarah fucking crawls out and she beats him in the head with something, if I recall correctly. And then she gets the fuck out of there. And then we resume the movie watching her walk down a crowded street by herself. And you're thinking, oh, now maybe she's making a documentary about her own life. Oh, wait, no, somebody is secretly filming her. I wonder who. And then she catches Mark's eye on the subway, and he is whistling the song that he whistled, that he made up about the wolf. We haven't even gotten into the wolf yet. And then she gets scared, and she's probably also got dead. So that's Creep 2. And now we get to the Creep tapes. And we can just copy and paste a lot of it for episodes 1 through 4. And that is that Mark does what he loves to do, and he hires a person to come film his life. The first 4 episodes have a backstory where the first one, he's an acting student, and so he's got a lot of funny monologues, and I do think these are deliberately horror comedy, and I never even considered that they weren't. So that's what I want to talk about when we get to it. Second one is he parachuted, and his parachute didn't open or opened wrong, whatever. He was in a parachuting accident. Now he met a bird watcher, and they are going on a journey to find that guy's favorite bird. The third one is a guy also with a failed YouTube channel, and he has a channel called Gotcha where he like exposes people and stuff. And so in this one, Mark is a priest. And then we have the next one starring, my bae, Josh Rubin. I have been watching, I'm 2 seasons in to Make Some Noise, and just, I love that man. Nobody tell my husband. Just kidding. He already knows. So that one, Josh Rubin is Brad. And Brad, I think in this one, Mark's an old filmmaker, if I recall. And Brad wants to work with him on a new film. Does that sound right?
No. Mark is just a fan of
I've got it
of
reversed.
Brad's.
Okay.
Yeah, Brad had made some movies, and Mark's like, "Oh, you made this movie, and it's awesome, and you made this movie, and
Thank
it's
you.
awesome, and now I want you. Who better to make a true crime movie about my life than the guy who made all these awesome true crime movies?"
That also sounds almost verbatim. So good job. Yes. I could not remember because I watched it 2 weeks ago and I did not rewatch it for tonight. So, okay, perfect. I got them mixed up. But yeah, so that's how it goes. And I mean, like, Mark was not excited enough to meet Josh Rubin. I would be fangirling so hard. I'd be like, oh my God, Brad, just kidding. I know who you are. Josh Rubin, man of the Seagull. That makes no sense unless you also have a dropout account. Anyway, episode 5, now we get to meet the wolf. Mark is in a hotel room and the guy that he wants to murder is being late. Oh man, hate when that happens. Shucks. But another guy, he knocks on the door and then it's the wrong room and he just lets that guy go. So you know he's just off. He's not at the top of his game. And then we get to meet Wolfie, Peach Fuzz, whatever. And it's a man in a wolf mask. And this is where I get confused because the camera is recording this. So that implies that this is a real person. So then I'm trying to figure out what the fuck that is because it can't be a delusion if we're watching it. And this entire time we've thought it's just a delusion. So I feel like it has to be his brother because we know that he has a sister based on the first creep. And we know that he has a brother because of comments his mom makes in episode 6. So I think this wolf character is a brother. But if not that, I have no fucking clue. But basically, he's fighting with a wolf man for the entirety of it. And then one of my favorite deaths is just that the guy who was super late shows up and opens the door and gets axed straight in the face. And I love that. That's great. And then the last one where we get a ton of lore and background, and I saw the ending coming, but I still felt, well, parts of it, I still felt pretty satisfied with how we concluded. But Mark goes back to visit his mom, and you see where he gets a lot of that weirdness from. She likes filming him, just like he likes filming other people. And he likes filming other people, but he also likes being filmed. Anyway, it comes from her. When he says that he does not like being filmed, he's a fucking liar. Because then you'd have a different hobby, Mark. So he goes back to meet his mom. His mom is a boyfriend. Oh my God, they're boning. Mark's not happy about this. Guy's name is Albert. Seems super nice. And then, of course, he says, like, he shows that he's a murderer, and then he's like, you have to know this because you're going to be dating my mom. And then just kidding, he kills Albert. She's not going to be dating anybody as far as Mark's concerned. And then the mom's like, oh no. Well, anyway, because of course she knew he was a serial killer. Like, duh. And that's, of course, who he learned it from. Duh. But I still did like getting confirmation because after 2 movies and 5 episodes where we don't know anything about this man, including his name, suddenly we get a lot of information and it makes a lot of sense and a lot of things clicked. So while I was kind of confused, episode 5 threw me off completely. I enjoyed this. That is the summary. So basically, the first 2 movies and the first 4 episodes, copy and paste. He hires a person to film him and then he kills them. One thing I wanted to say too, thinking of that pattern, I watched the first 4 episodes and then movie 1, movie 2. And I after watching 4 episodes of the Creep Tape and after the first movie, I was like, he just doesn't kill women, I guess. And then, of course, Sarah, because I forgot about what happens in Creep 2. And I was like, fuck yeah, female representation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much a solid recollection of things. A couple of things that I will point out, if I don't completely brain fart on them. There were a couple of things that I was going to mention. Anyway, I don't know. Here's what I can say about these. Your point about how these are basically copy and paste for both films and the first 4 episodes of the series is honestly a big part of my problem with the series. And again, this is just a matter of personal taste and the kind of stories I'm interested in. This franchise is way more about character than it is about plot. and it's predominantly about Mark Duplass exploring this serial killer character. There are a couple of moments, like we said, Creep 2 with Sarah, and also Creep Tape 4, the one with Josh Rubin. Josh Rubin gets to come out and play a little bit more character than some of the others do. But like it's not even just he's hiring somebody to come to his house and then he tricks them and he kills them. It's like, oh, there's gonna be a couple of moments where he suddenly just disappears and then pops out of nowhere and screams, where he's trying to scare people. And there's gonna be a moment where he asks this person a question and they're gonna lie to him, and you're gonna know that he knows they're lying, and it's gonna come back to bite him in the ass. Like, it is very, like, there are a lot of very repeated beats here. And if you're not the kind of person who gets really drawn into deep character studies without a lot of plot, for me, what you experienced as getting a whole lot more like sort of backstory and filling in the gaps on some of this, I experienced as, oh, this again. And that was a real issue for me. But that's from a character perspective, my issue with the series is that, and this is something that I want to talk about because you mentioned, like, you're sure these were supposed to be funny.
Yes.
Okay, because there were moments, and especially based on the films, the two feature films, because there are comedic things in those, but I don't think either film was intended to be funny, right? I don't think they were intended to be horror comedy. But
I definitely thought they were.
The first two, like the films?
Film 2 especially. Yes. The thing
really?
is, he is a very... Let's actually take in a smaller section of the Creep Tapes episode 1. I think that one sets the tone really well of continuing the comedy horror aspect, but I think that also because it's in a shorter format, it's easier to explain what I'm about to say. I guess actually I might just describe Creep 2 anyway. So basically, he's playing these outrageous characters, which I think we as the viewer are supposed to find funny, but then it is interlaced with these truly scary moments and constant toying. The first one, I think it's that I think he's a funny character, but it was also kind of like a bland movie. Creep 2 is very funny. He is so flustered by Sarah and cannot get a read on her, and like the way that he's like constantly jumping out at her and she's doing nothing is very funny. The way he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna picture you naked, so we should probably just get naked, is very funny. His little tantrum, his thing where he's sitting in the river and he's like, oh, you can just add special effects of like me sitting in the water. Like, he's just a very funny character. And then when he has those moments of like an actual genuine freak out, like sitting in the hot tub in the pitch black, and saying like, you need to leave, it's a bad night, and we know as the viewer how dangerous that is, but she doesn't. Having those two completely different characters from the same person is a big part of what appeals to me.
You see, and that's interesting because like, I definitely always saw the Mark Duplass's character as obviously somewhat absurd and over the top, but I never took it as like I'm supposed to find this funny. That's so interesting that you saw it that way. Like, I think there were definitely moments of comedy, but the idea that these would be like would you classify this as horror comedy, or do you just think there happened to be some funny things in it?
No, I thought it was horror comedy to the extent that when you said it wasn't, I went to the IMDb pages because I was hoping it was listed as a genre of horror comedy.
Oh, okay.
Because that's how convinced it's not. No. Yeah. But there's also a lot of stuff that is not. Sure. But I was just like, at least that would confirm one other person and I'm not just perceiving it weird, you know?
And Yeah, so there are definitely moments in here where I see where they were going for a little bit of comic relief or something. But then we especially the third episode of the series, where you got that guy who's got the show. What's the show? Gotcha. And he's wearing that hat and he's just playing total podcast hipster. And his big spiel where he starts ranting at this guy was so over the top and silly. And it got to a point where I got because I hadn't taken such a significantly humorous vibe from the movies the way you did. When I got to the series and suddenly there were a lot more of these forward absurdities, I got confused. I was like, what, did they just decide, fuck this creepy dude thing, we're just gonna get silly with this? Or what? To the point where, some of these episodes, the parachute guy episode is so preposterous. I couldn't get into it because I couldn't take any of it seriously. And I was just very confused about the tone involved here. So that made me real curious. I did love the Josh Rubin episode, but one thing then that I want to move on to is, again, this becomes very interesting for me. What was your overall opinion of episode 5? Do you think that was a good episode? Do you think are you just confused about it, but you enjoyed it? Tell me a little bit more about your thoughts on episode 5.
I am truly very baffled by episode 5, including how I feel about it. I think I like it, but I also think I need to know more about it to really decide that, because if that was just a figment of his imagination that was somehow captured on camera, then I hate it. But if that is later revealed as oh, it's a brother and all of this makes sense, then I would probably say I enjoy it. But it came so out of left field that suddenly we can see this other person that I spent a lot of time going over in my head, is this a delusion and the filmmakers fucked up? Or is this a real person? And if it's a real person, I think the fact that I don't know whether it's a real person, and it's also not clear whether the filmmakers wanted me to be confused, is what, it's a different thing if you're oh, we don't know if it's delusion or real or whatever. And all of that, kind of like how Mark is throughout the entire series of, I don't know what his reality is. I don't know when he's telling the truth and when he's not, and that's deliberate. But this person, I can see them. So does that mean that they are real? And then we have a lot of information and gaps that have to get filled in, because he's talking to them exactly as he would talk to a delusion and be like, oh, you want to be in charge now? And he's thinking of it kind of like his alter ego, who we have seen when he dons the mask. So I'm so confused. And I hope at some point it's enlightened that it was a real person, because if it's a figment, that makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, and that's actually the one that I was talking about earlier that I think is a Five Skull episode. I love this episode, and that uncertainty is exactly a big part of why. Because here was my experience with this, is I was watching it, and I just immediately from the get-go, I was like, oh, this is just his delusion, and we're being let in on it. Because I don't even, when I'm watching found footage movies, I don't have a mental state where I'm like, okay, think of this as if it was a found footage movie. I'm just watching a movie. And it did then hit me right towards the end. It's like, hey, wait a minute. If this is supposed to be real footage of things, why can we suddenly... And then I was just, oh shit, there's something else happening here. I thought the way they built that to make it feel like it was something that and obviously something that you caught on to way sooner than I did, but I do like that sort of now obviously there's a part of me that was hoping we might get some resolution out of that in episode 6 and maybe get something, and then we got what we got in episode 6, which is absolutely far and away my least favorite thing about this franchise. I was a little then disappointed, but while I was watching it and experiencing that episode 5, that was my favorite moment, even more so than getting to watch Josh Rubin and Mark Duplass play against each other for a half an hour. That was rad. But this one was the one where I was like, all right, now you're giving me something I can bite into that I enjoy the taste of. And I really liked that.
Not bite into. And it's a wolf. He bites hard. Yeah, I think part of what made me really like episode 6 is because I went into it with this confusion. And yeah, I knew immediately. I was like, this is a found footage movie and I can actually see that guy in episode 5. So the entire time I was full of too much doubt. So maybe I was supposed to be like taken in by the illusion and it just didn't work on me. But I was so hyper aware that like that's all I spent the whole movie thinking. From the time he's like talking to him on the bed.
Nobody watches movies in a vacuum, everything is informed by our own experience. So
I vacuum myself up and then I watch movies and it's really hard to hear. That's why I watch everything with subtitles. There's a squelching subtitle, by the way. I did capture it, episode 6. I loved adding a creep tape subtitle to the archive.
Wait, there was a squelching subtitle in episode 6?
Yeah, there was.
Oh, God, where?
Right at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Like 30 seconds in, the guy in the trunk, when he goes to shut him up, squelch.
Okay.
I think it's even a flesh squelching, which is one of my favorites. You guys don't know what I'm talking about? Go to the We Watch Shutter website and look up the squelch files. It is further proof that I have ADHD, and I was going to say I might benefit from medicine, but I'm also realizing my hobbies might change a little bit. So we might have to have some non-drug days, I guess.
There have been days where I'm just like, no, but my entire personality is designed around my depression and anxiety. What's going to happen if I start taking these pills?
Exactly. I'm getting a little bit better about in therapy, not just making jokes, because that's what I do. I really like making my therapist laugh. I love it. But she has started
with humor.
She has started calling me out on it. She's like, you're giving me mixed messages because you're saying some really sad things, but we're in therapy and you're laughing. And I'm like, ha ha ha. I was like, yeah, because I had a stand-up career based on what I'm telling you about like my suicide attempts and stuff. It's hard to get out of that frame of mind. Anyway, out of that frame of mind, shall we? Episode 6, the creep tapes. I think because I went into it wanting so badly to know whether that was his brother, because that was my theory basically right away. And part of it, like I said, watching in the order that I did, I went from the first Creep movie and being reminded, oh shit, he has a sister.
Does he?
I think so. Because his family knows. I think that I questioned it until episode 6. Okay. But I feel because of episode 6, that was his sister, and that his sister knows and doesn't approve.
Okay, yeah, because that was one of the lingering things for me is what's up with that phone call in the first movie where he's supposedly talking to this guy's sister, who he claimed was his wife earlier in the movie, and then they never say a thing about it in the second film, and so by the time we got to the series, I had already kind of forgotten about it.
Exactly.
But yeah, and then
I think I found the right order to watch them in.
you may well have, for sure. But so I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was like, let me finish episode 6. But now I'm stuttering trying to figure out where I was. I think just coming from the first Creep tape, or the first Creep movie, and wondering about the sister because it happens near the end, being fresh in my brain. Then I started wondering, okay, is this a brother? Because we established there was a sister. I feel like that could be a clever thing they're doing, like a build up to. Maybe it's the sister for all we know, in the wolf mask. That would be fun somehow. And then in episode 6, meeting the mom, I was like, you do have connections to your family. You're clearly still you still visit your mom, and I actually think that is his mom, and that's not a lie somehow. That was done on the camera. So it's like, okay, you still have You're still in talks with your mom. You have siblings. Your mom references them. It sounds like he has a brother because I think she calls him like one of her favorite sons or something like that. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure if we get season 2, that wolf is going to be a brother.
Yeah, that's a solid theory. Yeah, I did. And interestingly enough, that episode where it's like, oh, his mom is there, and she also used to kill or help kill people, and it turns out this might be like a whole family thing. I was just like, I don't know. It felt so out of left field for me, and just the whole it felt like a parody of serial killer stories in a lot of ways, right? Like it was trying to be more of a send up than a serious representation, and that was just confusing for me because I didn't see the films initially as terribly comedic. Clearly, you saw it a different way. Here's something I do want to ask you though, because this is something that I had a big issue with in this franchise, and we've talked about this because we have different, like in a movie like Speak No Evil or things like that. One of the biggest issues I have with this movie or this franchise and a lot of things is how fucking stupid are these people? Like, these people all stick around way fucking longer than I ever would. I'd make it about 10 minutes into one. Like, I think about the first time the dude just jumped out of nowhere and screamed at me, I'd be gone. Right? The idea that he just like, oh, come on, it'll be fine. I'm just joking. And like more and more, and they just keep coming back. And the one that to me is the most absurd is in the first movie where all of this stuff has happened. Dude attacks him, Joseph, quote unquote, attacks Aaron. And then Aaron goes home and he's like, oh, and now all of a sudden I've got this video of this guy acting like he's going to bury me. And I got these things that make it seem like he's stalking me in my house. And then the dude just sends you a videotape that says, no, I promise it'll be fine. Come out here to the lake and sit down and talk with me. I promise everything will be fine. And you actually go? Are you out of your mind? Look, I'm not saying anybody deserves an axe to the back of the head, but holy shit, how gullible do these people have to be?
I also thought of Speak No Evil and how I knew you were going to have that reaction to these movies because we had very different reactions to Speak No Evil, where I hate confrontation. And like I will sit in an awkward moment as long as I have to avoid the other person feeling uncomfortable. I will sit there and I will take a lot of stuff as long as that person doesn't hate me. Like if those are my options, be awkward and like somebody feels neutral about you or cause a scene, even a small one, or just like leave a situation. Now they hate you. Like I am unfortunately am a massive people pleaser. The other factor is that they are getting paid $1,000 to stay there. And I know I would stay in a job situation I disliked a lot longer than JD would.
You know what? That's fair. That's very fair.
I realized that while watching where I was like, yeah, I would definitely stay there for $1,000. JD would not.
No.
Your tolerance is much lower.
And interestingly enough, part of why I thought Creep 2 was, at least for me, the most engaging entry in this franchise is because they give us moments in Creep 2 where, like you said earlier, it feels like they're genuinely giving us him with the mask off, right? Like there are those moments where we're seeing legitimately him. It gives me a more believable story arc of why Sarah would stay based on who her character is, what she's trying to do. If he's just being weird Joseph, Aaron, Bill, whatever his name is, to me, again, it doesn't make sense, but there are those moments. And that's all it took was those few moments. That scene in the hot tub or whatever that tub is in the basement, like there are so many ways that a lesser film or a more typical film would have taken that scene, and it has all of these tensions and implications, but is still so very very tame and innocent in a lot of ways. It suddenly makes you think about a lot of things, about just his relationship with women in general. What is his relationship with his mother like? What's his history with romantic relationships like? What was his relationship with his sister like? All this sort of stuff. And that's interesting that you mention that every other victim in this franchise is a man. And the one that he seemed to have the most difficulty with was the woman. I think that tells us a ton about that character, which I think is also part of why when we get to the episode about his mom, it has this very absurdist kind of feel to it, because it felt a lot heavier for me in that second feature. And so I think it was just kind of a disconnection there. But God, what they did in Creep 2, that is worth everything else this franchise. Like, we got that movie, and even if you hate everything else, that is fantastic. I love that film.
Creep 2 is expertly written.
Yeah, really good.
Mark and Sarah played, hang on, what was her name? I had to go look up. Desiree. Yeah, I had to go look up, like, what else have you been in? Do I know you from anything? Because she's fantastic, and she's only got 11 credits on her IMDb. Casting agents, get her work, please. Well, I want to see her.
She's also a writer and director in her own right, I believe.
Oh, I guess she only has 11 movies on her IMDb now that I look at it.
Yeah.
Well, and 7 acting. I need her to be in everything, though, going forward. I adored her.
Even little things in Creep 2, like the scene where, because Duplass gets naked in most of these, right? But even in the first one, it's very quick and it's not overly exposure. He goes full frontal in Creep 2, right? And that sequence to me is again one of the most interesting in developing an actual story out of this character. It illustrates the dynamic between him and Sarah so well, because he stands there and he just starts taking his clothes off, and she's behind the camera and she doesn't flinch, right? She doesn't flinch at his trying to startle her. It's like all of a sudden and she's just like, all right, whatever. Like, I'm here to try and get this story. I'm here to try and do this. Like, she is completely unfazed. And then as soon as the camera turns around, just as she gets naked enough that we see things that some people say you shouldn't be allowed to see, he immediately tilts the camera up and zooms in on her face so that he's not looking at anything else. And that was so heavy to me. It's just like, oh, this guy really is uncomfortable around women. There's so much in that movie that I really, really loved. And it's all centered around that dynamic between him and the female victim. Now, what's interesting to me about that is if you look at the names on the tapes in the credit sequence for this show,
there are women.
There seem to be female names. And so I'm curious about that. I'm definitely curious about that. Because it's an interesting way things go. Speaking of those tapes, though, I don't know if you noticed, but there are 2 tapes in particular. One of them just says Pittsburgh Pirates. And I don't know if it's just a random tape that they threw in there as a goof or whatever, but there's all these tapes with people's names and dates, and then right in the middle there's just one tape that says Pittsburgh Pirates. What's up? But towards the end of the credit sequence, when they switch from like the VHS tapes down to the shelf with like the digital video camera tapes, one of those tapes on the spine just says experimental film. And goddamn it, I want to see this fucking psychopath's experimental film as soon as I can. I saw that and I was like, what the fuck is that? I need to see this.
The tapes. So I'm not convinced that he's had any female victims he's murdered, because he says 37, and there's definitely way more tapes than that, and like those could have just been women he was stalking. We also did not see him ever murder Sarah, and I like to think that they got married or something. She was like, man, I miss that weird freaky guy, and like that's gonna be, we find out later that they have a happy life, but he doesn't even murder her. She's the only like victim, quote unquote. Yeah, and then even when he finds her, the death is not filmed on camera.
Right.
I don't know if he's ever managed to kill a woman.
That I see that. I do. I believe it was 39 victims. I don't know if you noticed though. Some of those tapes have the same name on multiple tapes, like the same name and date. So that might explain the excess of tapes in comparison to number of victims. But you got
Pittsburgh Pirates. That probably is just a game he filmed.
Yeah, and I love that idea that he's just, and it's not even a handwritten label. It's like computer printed block font letters. The Pittsburgh Pirates. And it's like, what, he just keeps that in his video collection? And then I was immediately like, oh, I gotta go through this frame by frame and see what I can find. And that's where I found experimental film, and I want to see that. But one last thing that I also wanted to talk about that I did find real hard to wrap my head around here is he talks about how he's like the most prolific serial killer that nobody even knows is a serial killer. And I don't know what world these folks are living in, but if your whole method of finding victims is like you put a Craigslist ad looking for somebody you can pay $1,000 to come out and videotape you, you're going to get caught, right? Like there's no way this guy has done this 39 times and nobody's figured out. I'm not saying they would have caught him by now, but they're at least fucking looking for him. You know, they definitely know he exists, right? So now I start to wonder, how many people has he actually killed anyway? Has he really killed 39 people? Is this a Patrick Bateman situation? Who knows? I don't know. What do you think?
I think Austin Butler playing Patrick Bateman's role is going to be weird.
Wait, what?
Austin Butler was just cast as the American Psycho remake lead.
Why are they remaking American Psycho?
Because Hollywood's out of ideas.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Everything's intellectual property. We don't want to pass off ownership potential.
I know, it's a bummer.
Else. Blah, 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 blah. It's just a bummer. But, dude, if people want to see American Psycho that bad, just fucking re-release American Psycho in theaters. The movie's great.
It's too old now. That's considered vintage.
You shut your trap. That is not vintage.
That probably was showing on a VHS tape the first time somebody watched it, and I don't even know what those are.
Yeah, you know what a VHS tape is.
No idea. When he was doing these weird things with these hard disk things in this movie, I had no idea what that is. Isn't that kind of sad? There are going to be people who are like, what the fuck is that? How does it play stuff on the TV? Is that connected to Bluetooth? Speaking of yesterday at Spookums, where a bunch of us just got together and watch horror video games and freak out. We're currently working our way through Silent Hill 2. And on a desk, there was a floppy disk and a hard disk cassette. And it took us a long time to argue over the terminology for the two different things, because some people called them both floppy disks, and then the rest of us got mad at them for it. So we did have to debate that because it's been a long time since I had to remember the names for those things.
Well, as far as I know, they are both technically floppy disks, but one is a floppy disk in a floppy shell, and the other one's a floppy disk in a hard shell.
No, the shell is what makes it. Those are hard disks.
Okay, if you say so.
You're probably Googling, but I mean, like, you're right.
No,
I just refuse to accept it.
I was just time coding my cough so I can take it out of the mix.
Okay, that's fair. That's good. I was going to ask if you were doing that because I wasn't doing it today. I'm in my basement. I'm on only a single laptop and not my dual monitor setup. It's winter. I'm never going to be in my office while we record ever again. It's hibernation season. I got a cross stitch and I got to hang out with my cat. Speaking of, I have nothing left to say about Creep. And Pudge is trying to force her way into my lap.
Oh, so. Pudge. Hi. Riley made an issue, and now Pudge is making an issue.
She loves to make... Did you hear him? She, came closer. Okay.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yeah. She's my old, sweet, dumb tortie.
She knows.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got
don't
nothing
really have
else.
much else to say. Well, next week we have the only Shudder new drop of the entire month. What's it called? The Last Straw?
Last Straw.
Last Straw. I don't know nothing about it. Looking forward to seeing it. Real excited. We've made some more selections for Darkest Day of Horror Film Festival coming up in June. More details coming after the first of the year. We may have found a third feature. We've found several shorts that we're going to be bringing in. Oh God, Michelle. What happened is for a while there, I started to get real anxious and started to really get in my head and be like, "What are you doing? Come on, you can't really pull this off. Scale it back. Just do the very basics, something real small." And then I just decided I need to start sending some messages out, and now I'm just back fucking gung-ho again. We got some rad movies. We're going to sell a bunch of tickets. We're going to get a bunch of people in there. It's going to be a good goddamn time. I just, I got to keep going and not stop, and apparently that's what's going to keep me excited.
I appreciate that you say we, but I would like on the record to say that I've done jack shit. I've done nothing. I'm not helping in this endeavor at all. It is all JD. When it is a huge success, I am here for moral support and comfort.
Here's the thing that I will say until I can't say things anymore, Michelle, is I would never be at a point where I felt like I could pull this off if we hadn't been doing this for the last almost 3 years and had the opportunities that we've had. And I never would have done this without you. So everything that I do is everything. If this podcast name is on it, regardless of how much actual division of labor is going on, it's a 50-50 credit.
Until the day where you decide I am actually way more annoying than you ever realized, and suddenly it clicks and you're like, oh my God, she does just ramble, and you change the show name to I Watch Shudder and kick me off.
But Michelle, the thing you seem to keep forgetting is that the other side of this is that there are certain investments that secure your position and security.
Yeah, I have disposable income.
Hemorrhaging money. Guys,
hemorrhaging funds.
I don't mean to make things really awkward, but if you had any idea how much Michelle has invested into me having a good time, you would understand why I'm giving her 50% credit for everything I do 100%.
You know what? Fair. I am a shareholder. And as we learned, CEOs, aka you exist to make me money.
Wait, I don't want to be the CEO. That's a bad
I don't want to be
Musk.
I don't want to be Musk. You have to make me money.
I don't want to get shot.
Oh yeah, good point. It's no longer safe. The streets are dangerous. Yeah.
But Michelle is the majority shareholder.
Fair. If you want to buy stock, we will. Actually, crypto's the thing now. I'll release a crypto line. Okay, I got nothing more to add.
I got nothing else. We'll talk to them all next week. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
For more horror content, visit WeWatchShudder.com, where you'll find our world-famous, patent-pending Ghoul blog and Squelch files, as well as a schedule of upcoming episodes. Find us on social media at We Watch Shudder on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I guess Twitter if you're still doing that for whatever reason. You can email us. mail@wewatchshudder.com is the address. mail@wewatchshudder.com. You can even call and leave us a voicemail, 701-566-9510. No, really. 701-566-9510. Give it a shot. See what happens. We Watch Shudder is a production of Rat Factory Media. Riley, come here, buddy.
He doesn't understand English.
Do you need to go potty? All right, I'll be right back, Michelle.
Okay.